Best of the
Commander.
best.
We got no reference. What's the plan? GSL. Kaboom, baby! Go.
Hey guys, the sun is shining, the snow is there. That fan was yawning, but you know what? She won't be in a few seconds when we start the second set here because things are getting a little bit heated up in the studio. I'm not just talking about that hot pad I got at the front desk.
A lot of them are yawning now. That cameraman was so lucky. He actually caught 2 of them. It was like, gotcha. You are watching great games, so be a little bit more excited. And they definitely should. The next game is going to be a Zerg versus Protoss. We have Lucky up next. He's the standard second player for Team FXO, the one guy that you always want to have out there. And he is up against Vampire now, as the best was just a few minutes ago defeated by the strong Protoss player of Team MVP.
Yeah, Vampire is pretty good in this matchup. Unless he's playing against Suoshin, then he kind of fumbles a little bit. But otherwise, in this
Don't
matchup,
remind me of that game.
Don't
do that to me.
He's looked pretty good when he doesn't miss his force fields, when he knows their banling's coming.
I actually think Vampire still has nightmares of that series.
I think so. Well,
that was like Code A, I think. Right?
Yeah, that was like the 3rd round of Code A. By the way, here is a bunch of information about the GSL Tour Grand Final, which even though it's kind of a weird name, you will get used to it, I guarantee you. You can see the dates here, the 17th to the 22nd. There are double days on Monday and Tuesday. Then we have, of course, the playoffs on Wednesday and Thursday. And the finals are going to be at the W Hotel Vista Hall. I don't even know where that is, but it sounds pretty fancy.
I have no idea, but I definitely have to find out.
Yeah.
And yeah, it sure does. So, the information's here for the GSL Tour Grand Final. We are now at the GSTL Final, overall final. And yeah, today the thing that astonished me a little bit is that you would actually pick a Zerg player against Vampire now, because he's pretty good at that matchup.
Yeah, it's like he must have something special planned.
Yeah, I mean the series that you mentioned against Suoshin. Guys, if you have never seen that series and you want to have a little bit of a laugh and see a player who is completely melting down for kind of no reason, then watch that series. It's like the one series that Vampire tries to delete from the GOM archive. He watches those games, he's like, what happened with me?
Yeah.
What happened? I don't understand
I think he's probably trying to forget about those games, but we could see some strategy like that, an all-in aggressive strategy with Roaches or Banlings, because that's where Vampire has shown a weakness. That's where he's shown to get nervous.
Yeah, Lucky on the other hand is usually a player who really loves a strong mid-game play.
Yeah, exactly, and Vampire does too. I mean, we saw how much aggression he was able to put on against the best last game.
Oh, look at what map Lucky picks here. He goes for Antigua Shipyard, not only because the map is of course awesome for Zerg, as long as you avoid that two-base timing attack with Immortals, as long as you're able to dodge that, the map is awesome for you as a Zerg player.
Yeah,
but the more important thing is you don't want Team MVP to use it later on against a player like Lina.
Exactly. It's a great pick to save a Zerg later. But also, on this map, you got to be careful about that Void Ray play. With the Zealots, you can warp those into the main. You can also just attack the 3rd base with multiple Void Rays. That has been a problem for Zerg players in the past. It was more of a late 2010, 2011 early strategy, but now it's still used in professional play. That's something that Lucky is going to have to be careful of here.
When it comes down to the maps, I would actually not have been surprised if Team FXO tries to save Antigua a little bit. Linux is a player who said in the past he's happy to face a Terran on Antigua, one of the few. But well, we're heading into the game right now, ladies and gentlemen. We have Lucky up against the Vampire in a PvZ on Antigua Shipyard here at the GSTL Finals, brought to you by Carl Wolf. Starting to the bottom of the map in red, we have our Protoss player for Team MVP at the GSTL Finals. He took down the best, now he's up against the Zerg. Can he do it? His ID is...
MVP, Vampire!
Does not like garlic on his toast.
Yep. I also heard he hates crosses.
Yes. And to the top left in the blue on the creep. Second player for FXO multiple times. He is.
FXO Lucky!
We'll see if they have a lot of luck with this guy going into game number 2.
Lucky is one of the players that has been fallen off the grid in the individual league. It seems like every single time he plays a really important match, he's very, very unlucky.
By the way, here's our Hot 6 stim pack that we got to see for a brief moment there. That was a pretty cool cheerful. This guy makes so many cheerfuls, by the way.
Yeah, he's always here, every single time. He's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, he's cool, man. I remember he made the Wolf Alone, Home Alone parody design that one time. That was pretty funny.
Coming back to my thoughts about Lucky. The thing is that, for example, when he plays a Code A qualifier, it looks like he always makes it in the final, but then I don't know what it is. He loses confidence or he messes up a little bit. So he hasn't been in Code A for ages, for an eternity. And there were times where he was so strong and did so well in the individual leagues. But these days he's just struggling a little bit. And also in the team league, him winning a few games, that's what you try to go for. Try to make him just at least snipe one player. But nerves are really a big issue for him. That's what he always tells me after and even before his games. He's like, yeah, I feel I can take him. I feel that I'm strong enough, but I'm pretty nervous right now going to this game, so I have to control my nerves, and then I think I'll be fine.
Yeah, that's usually how it is with Lucky. And in the E Stadium, where the Code A qualifiers are held, there's a lot of pressure, and what ends up happening towards the end of the day, especially once you get to that final stage, before when you're playing your first or second round, now that people are taking note, there's so many different players in the studio over there, and then suddenly you have this massive crowd of all the fans and also all the programmers who are still left who try to qualify, standing behind you while you play, and that is a different feeling than actually being in the booth where you're a little bit isolated from the crowd. Yeah, you're on camera, but in this case, in the E Stadium, you've got, you know, potentially 50 or 60 people just right behind you with no even wires or anything pushing them back, and that could be very stressful.
Especially for the finals, of course.
Yeah.
When most of the players are already done, there are only a few left playing. But well, in this game, now you can currently see what you would expect for a PvZ on Antigua. We currently have MVP Vampire going for this 2-base build. He's building his wall at the front, whereas Lucky takes his 3rd base so far without gas. And now the question, we have of course 2 questions here. First of all, is Vampire going to go for a 2-base timing attack, trying to take down the 3rd base? And the second question, what exactly is Lucky going to do in order to prevent it? Will we see him with, for example, a good creep spread to the front? Will he go for a Roach and Ling build so that he can go for run-bys, that he can try to flank his opponent as soon as he moves out? He definitely has to get the scouting information to know when it's coming and, of course, if it's coming at all.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many different great builds you can do on this map off of 2 bases. And one of the reasons why you see so many 2-base pushes on this map specifically is because the 3rd base is kind of hard to take for both races because it's so far away. You can't spread your creep easily. The Protoss player's base is far away. It's hard for him to make sure his bases are linked up.
You know what disappoints me in a lot of Zergs these days when I actually watch this matchup? You know, as a Zerg player, of course, what's the big problem? The big problem is if the Protoss is able to get into the high ground at your 3rd, you have a huge problem defending it. It will probably lose it. As soon as the Protoss is established on the high ground and has good force field micro, you don't have a chance of defending this 3rd. That doesn't automatically mean you lose the game. You still have a good chance of winning it. But this could be avoided, or it could actually, just helping you with the defense, is a really good creep spread at 3rd. And so many Zerg players are completely neglecting that. It's getting a lot better these days. You have so many Zergs that try to spread the creep aggressively at the 3rd, down the ramp at the rocks to make sure that they see early on what's coming, that they limit the space for pylons to be built, and that they can use that momentum and that extra speed to flank their opponent and to try to bait out force fields early on.
Yeah. That's something that's a little bit on the rise, I feel, right now. By the way, this quick lair here is really interesting to me. I think we're going to see Infestors at this point, since he's only mining from 2 gases, but, you know, he hasn't started a Roach Warren at all.
He actually gets his lair before he gets his speed, and that's... Oh my god.
Nidus Network.
I think I just fell in love with.
Well, I think that you gotta figure out this is real love or infatuation, but while you're figuring that out, we're gonna freak out a little bit here because there's really good coverage in the main base. He doesn't have a lot to spot though, a forward nice if he goes, for example, for a Hydros bust, but with only Lings being made, it looks like that's definitely not gonna be his plan.
This is so freaking awesome.
He's actually just going to go for a big Nidus in the main, but
Man,
I think this is going to be spot. This is going to be so close. Actually, if he puts it behind the smoke,
idea.
He doesn't know.
Oh my god, on my awesomeness scale, this has a 10 of 10, Wolf. This is a 10. A flat out 10.
So close to spotting, but he does not.
Lucky, how brilliant is that? He follows it up with a Spire now. He goes for Spire, but here come the Zerglings. The Nidus is in. He has the Nidus in the bay, and Vampire is looking at this. He's like, what?
Yeah, that's what he's running right now. And the Probe's coming off the line here to try to fight, but there's not enough, and the Sentries here do not have enough DPS. This looks crazy. He's going to lose so much here. Great stop position micro. He has to use hold position on the Zerglings to actually fight those Probes, but now the Queen even coming in here to help out, and I think this is just going to be game.
This looks like it's going to be bye-bye Vampire. Can the Protoss player somehow hold on? He has the +1 attack upgrade now. Warps in Zealots. We have a bad force field, not doing too much for Vampire right now. The Zerglings in the main base are obliterating the main.
Yeah, and the Zealots now here trapped as well. Isolated, the Probes trying to flank from the side. He just does not have enough. Now that the Zealots are gone, the Probes are going to die. He even pulls back his weakens early to try to target down the Nexus. Like you mentioned, the Spire is the follow-up here. He's going to be able to start in about 6 minutes as soon as it's done.
This is brilliant. He can follow that up with Mutalisk right away, and this is the one thing that Vampire couldn't deal with at all. But GG. It doesn't even come down to it. Lucky he takes the game. What a cool strategy.
Yeah, just knocking him down with the gas he was mining. The Mutalisk fault was well timed. He just used all of his larva. And we saw a quick 12 probe and gas build from Vampire, but he went for several observers before trying to get his Immortal out, and just goes to show, doesn't matter if you make observers or not, if you don't see that Nidus, you might just lose the game.
He might have been tipped off by the placement for the Overlord, but would you really expect that? This is a map that we've seen countless times in PvZ, and you don't really expect there to be suddenly a Nidus network. Yeah, that was beautiful by Lucky. He takes a chance, and he gets rewarded. It makes you look a little bit silly if you try to establish a Nidus network and then suddenly your opponent sees us right away, sends those probes out, and you are in a weird spot. But then he still has the Mutalisk follow-up. So a great strategy used here, and Lucky gets rewarded, takes the win, and equalizes the score.
Yeah, what a crazy game. And that puts Lucky now on the scoreboard. And we've got, now I feel, a situation where MVP is thinking, oh, I didn't expect Lucky to take that win quite like that. What sort of build is going to show us in game number 2? Do we send out another Pross like Finale or Tails right now? I don't think they're going to do that. I think this actually might be the time to see a Terran player like Noble S, a strong Terran player, like top tier on their team. Not Keen necessarily, but I think Keen would also make sense here because later on they want to use those Zergs like Dongregoo and Sniper. And also you've got Tails and Finale, who are really more like sniper players, where they were chosen just to take out one specific player on a certain map. So to use just an all-around good player like Keen makes sense to me right now.
I feel Keen might even be a little bit too strong, that they try to save Keen for later on. The thing is, if you think about the lineup of Team FXO, I feel that the two players you have to watch out for, in particular, are Gumiho and Lino. Yeah. These are the two, and the question, of course, is which players on the MVP roster have been trained to be snipers for those two guys?
Exactly, that's what we've got to wait to find out. You know, there's another Terran player on the team that's been doing really well right now, and that's Dream. And we could see him as well here. And we could inevitably just see another Protoss player as well. They could actually put Finale out here a little bit earlier. But I think they probably want to, if they're going to use their Protoss players, they probably want to wait until the right moment. They're probably going to be for snipers. Lucky's not someone they thought, how do I deal with this guy? They're thinking about Gumiho, like you said. They're thinking about Lenok. How do we deal with them? So,
to be honest with you, I have no idea who are they going to pick here. They might even just pick Tails.
Yeah, this is a tough call right now for them to make, and I'm not sure who they're going to choose. This is, I think, one of the hardest choices that there's ever been in the team league this season right now.
Yeah, the problem is in the early stage of the game, you want to have a player out there who can still beat Lucky, but you don't want to use your big guns just yet because you know there are two players on the bench of Team FXO that they are so strong they might just crush 2 or 3 of your players. So it's really difficult to make this decision now.
Yeah, I'm still. I feel we're going to see one of these Terrans, but I can't say for certain. You know, it's such a tough choice to make.
We might also see just a Protoss on Ohana, for example.
Very possible. Who's it going to be?
Oh my god.
Dongregoo.
Are you serious?
I guess so, man. It's time for DRG ZVZ. And Dongregoo has shown a bit of a weakness to coming out last recently, so I like that they sent him out early here.
Exactly. They try to take a little bit of the pressure away from him, and I think that's a good choice, especially now since we have such a strong player on their team like Sniper that can come out last for the team. So actually I think that's a really good choice for them.
Now, Dongregu, historically speaking, in ZVZ, was once considered to be one of the best players. He has been a little bit shakier in recent times, but I feel like his early to mid game is still very strong. His late game ZVZ, he has lost games where he's been ahead like 50 supply in the ZVZ, and we've seen that. I mean,
Abyssal City, man.
Yeah. He seems to be a bit weak in the late game ZVZ, so that's probably going to be the reason why he focuses on early to mid game here.
I'm really excited for this match. This is going to be a ZVZ, but still, this is going to be very interesting. As I said, and as you mentioned as well, I love that they pick him this time a little bit faster. There's not a lot of pressure on him. It's a score that scores 1-1, so even if he loses here, it's going to be fine. His team can still make up for that. So often in the past, he came through for his team, then he hit this dry spot that lasted for quite a long time where he couldn't really get the results. But right now, as the second player of the team, he might just be able to get lucky out here, and then suddenly FXO is faced with a decision, well, what are we going to do now?
They might be able to pull Gumiho off the bench, for example. He might be able to force Gumiho out earlier than FXOpen wanted to use him.
You know, if he wins now, if ERG wins now, it's going to be awesome for him. He gets a little bit of momentum going, he gets a little bit more confidence in the team match. GSTL, as you said, was not really the best area for him lately. But if he gets the momentum going and FXO is faced with the decision who to send out, they might have to send Gumiho out.
Yeah.
They might have to say, okay, well, you have one of your best players out already. We have to make sure some of our big guns are going to face him next.
Absolutely. I'm totally in agreement here. I think that this is a move that's great for Dongregu confidence-wise and may pull Gumiho off the bench. ZVZ, though, is somewhat of a volatile matchup. It's not Dongregu's best, I feel. He has shown great ZVZs in the past. The map choice is Ohana, and this is another map that Linog is probably not going to be too worried about. He's going to be like, oh, okay, so I also don't have to face a Protoss on Ohana later when I come out, if I come out.
I actually am a little bit surprised that Ohana is being picked here. The reason being is, we don't have a lot of Protoss players on the FXO roster, and Ohana has been a map that is good for Protoss if you go for PvZ.
Yeah.
I could have seen later on a player like Tails take Ohana, like Finale take Ohana against the Zerg player, trying to use that map against Lino.
And even I could see a player like ASD taking Ohana against Tails or against Finale as well. And so this choice seems really interesting to me, but Dongregu may have something special planned. The map is loading. We are in the GSTL Season 3 for 2012 Grand Finals. I am Wolf. With me is Kaldor. We are jumping into the next game here, Lucky versus DRG.